with a very special guest who can go ahead and invite to have a seat next to me right now to sort of break down and learn a bit more about what is going on right here. I am joined by Caitlin of the RNA, and there we go. Take time to charm. Let me just make sure we can hear you right now. And Caitlin, thank you so much for joining me back here.
It's my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
So first question, have to ask, I mean, obviously esports kind of a new thing at the ECA, kind of a new event. What are sort of your initial impressions being able to come here and watch it and see it for yourself?
I think that this is an exceptional addition to what we offer here at the ECA. I'm part of the Future Directions Committee, and one of our roles is actually to run the Young Farmers Challenge out on the main arena, where we have competitions between, it's a relay-style competition, where we have up to 4 teams at a time actually driving tractors on the main arena, putting out fires, building cattle yards and that sort of thing. And that is an initiative that our committee put together, obviously, to try and show guests to the ECA some of the tasks that farmers undertake at home day in, day out. What I think is exceptional about the esports is we are able to connect with a generation who may not necessarily have access to property, ever visited a farm, or back in the day, everyone had a cousin or a relative that had a farm, whereas now we really are finding that there is a disconnect between the city and country, and what we try to do here at the ECA is try to bridge that gap. And as I said, the exciting part about having the Esports Young Farmers Challenge is that we're accessing a greater number of people, and it falls in line with technology now in the agricultural sector is such a huge component of what the industry is doing generally. So this goes hand in hand with some of the technology that we're seeing in production.
Yeah, it's interesting when you sort of mix, I guess, like the rise in technologies, again, with the more urban or city environment with this one, because when you're watching these two teams kind of go at it and start to apply those farming techniques, you might not necessarily think that these are the two city teams in this one. So they're essentially learning kind of how the farm works as they are then playing the game.
Absolutely. And having an opportunity to chat to some of the teachers here this morning, we're actually getting feedback that some of the students here who are doing an exceptional job, this opportunity has been some of the first opportunity that they've had to actually see how some of the farming equipment works, how farmers actually utilise harvesting technologies, and then as you saw here, stacking hay bales into the shed. So
yeah, I do have to think, though, I mean, there are some lines I feel like where the virtual game does differ. I'm not sure you can flip tractors by, doing doughies on their side.
Well, I have seen a few tractors roll in their time, and no doubt there are a few people who have tried to do doughies in tractors. But I am particularly impressed at some of the techniques that we're seeing. I think the last tractor rollover we saw was utilising the flagpoles with the front end loader to lift it up. So if only it was that easy in the paddock.
I mean, it's interesting when you sort of compare, I guess, like the game mechanics, I suppose, with like the real life equipment, because I've found like driving, maybe the real life equipment would be a bit easier than with the games, funnily enough, but then you can do things like flipping it, which you can't necessarily do.
You definitely wouldn't want to do that in the paddock too often.
I'm actually also a little bit curious, and I suppose in the comparison with sort of the layout and how this event is run with some of the more physical events that you have run in the past, because I think the way how this game sort of presents sort of the competition with like the racing to get the hay bales stacked into the barn, would that be something that could actually then be applied physically sometime in the future as well? Like that similar style race that we're seeing in this? Absolutely.
So it's funny that the stacking hay bales is one of the challenges here, because that is actually one of the challenges that we see in the main arena with our physical Young Farmers Challenge. So we utilise big 6-foot round bales actually, where teams have to roll the hay bale on its side and have to race it across the arena. But there's also Young Farmer Challenge around the States where they do use these small style hay bales here and have to stack them like you would either on trailers or in the sheds. So
awesome. Well, one last question before we head off, because it does look like the teams are starting to kind of get ready for their second match. I'm just kind of curious, as someone who's a bit more experienced, I suppose, with the physical aspect of these competitions, but then seeing in the digital, what sort of advice do you want to give these teams? Like, what do you think you've been seeing them do that maybe they can sort of improve on moving forward?
Probably like any piece of farm machinery, you've got to take it gently. And when you're loading the hay bales onto the conveyor belt in particular, take a moment, take a breath, and get the front end loader there nice and calmly.
Yeah, make sure it is straight because, you know, you don't want to have it fall off at the very top and then do the entire process over again. You
Absolutely.
know? Do a job right the first time, you don't have to do it again.
That's it.
Well, thank you very much for joining me up on stage here, Caitlin. I hope you're enjoying the event as much as we are, and I do hope you stick around as well throughout the rest of it, because I think once the regional schools come in and then we get to that grand final, it's going to get very exciting very quickly.
I think it will. Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you. So